Welcome to Real Estate Unlocked, the ultimate podcast for aspiring realtors, fresh faces in the business, and seasoned professionals alike. Your dynamic duo are ready to guide you through the exciting world of real estate. Please welcome your host, Erica Kauzlarich-Bird, and her co-host, Tammy Barnes.
Here we are.
This is a big day for Miss Erica.
It is. This is so exciting.
How long have you waited for this moment?
28 years.
Well, podcasts haven't been out that long.
Oh, that's true. They haven't been out that long.
I'm talking about a podcast.
Yeah, quite a few years. I always thought coaching was going to be my thing, but I'm thinking that podcasting is kind of where it's at.
And you didn't know it was going to bring your sister to work day and your mother. So let's introduce Mama Di. Say hello, Mama Di.
Good morning, everyone.
We're so excited to have you on.
Yes.
This is going to be so much fun.
It's so much fun.
And, we're going to have a future episode where Tammy and I will dive deep a little bit more into our experience, our family background, all of that. But gosh, there's just so much going on right now.
What's your vision for your podcast?
This industry has given so much to me that I want to give back to the industry, and I feel like, and giving back to the consumer, and I really feel like that's through this platform of helping realtors be successful. I've been able to be sort of a stay-at-home mom while earning an income, and like Mom has always said, you can't make as much money anywhere else that you can in real estate. It's endless, but yet it's such a great profession because you can make it whatever you need it to be. Some people are the breadwinners. They need to make a ton of money. Other people just need to bring in a little bit of money. So you can make it your success whatever you want it to be. No one's really delegating what your success is.
And I love how you came up with Real Estate Unlocked, because I think there's so many different avenues that you wanted to unlock about the industry. And there's not a whole lot out there about that. Just having the discussion, taking people's questions, and just what's the common realtor thinking about on a daily basis. It's kind of a lonely business sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And really over time, and I think Mom will agree, everyone was always in our office, right? There were days we could get nothing done because everyone came to us and they turned to us sometimes for insight, sometimes for coaching, and sometimes just for someone to look at them and go, the business sucks right now. We're not busy,
Yeah.
and you have to be careful who you go to sometimes or who you say that to. So it is a very lonely business. And so I think because Mom and I have always been transparent, where they'll go, how are you doing? Terrible. Oh, thank God. Because everyone thinks, especially this market right now, we're all acting like it's our fault that this is happening and that we don't have any business coming in. So I think that's why it's important that this first episode, we really dive into this and really dive into what's in the headlines and what's going on so that everyone can take a sigh of relief and realize that things are going to change. Change is okay. And what you could be doing right here, right now, sort of while you have the time. We're all coming off of this huge high, right? So COVID and the low interest rates. And so we're all coming down off of that high. And it's like, oh, what do I do? And there's so many things that realtors who are new in the business, even some seasoned ones, that they forget about going back to the basics that we can talk about. And then future episodes will, get a little bit more into who we are and all of the years that we've been in this business and what's been successful for us, what's worked, hasn't worked.
Yeah, so I think that with that, I think we dive into today's market, today's real estate. And I know lately we've met quite a few people in the industry that they've been in the business under 10 years, and everyone kind of saying the same thing. I'm not quite sure how I got to where I was at. Well, the interest rates were fantastic, right? So that is an easy market to be in. Now you reach this market, and that's where I think people are feeling like, well, what did I do wrong? First of all, it's not your fault. But we keep hearing hone your skills. And so what does that mean to you and Mama Di? Like, what are you doing 28 plus years, Mama Di's 30, in the industry? What do you do in a market like this?
Well, why don't you go first, Mama Diane?
Well, my opinion on that is that to be a successful real estate agent, you have to understand your profession. In order to do that, you have to understand all of the forms that go along with it. They give you a lot of studying to do to become a realtor, and you think you're learning. However, very little of that testing really goes into the street smarts that you need to be able to sell homes. So I would say the very first thing is learn your forms, go to your company meetings, reach out to people like Erica and Tammy who have got ideas of how to put together packages, because you have to understand the contracts in order to explain to a client everything that you're doing. Taking them out to see a home is the easy part. Knowing what homes to pull up also has some learning skills. You want to know your neighborhoods. You want to know if there's anything negative about a neighborhood, if something happened during any crisis in that state, that kind of thing. But learning those basics before you really can talk to people and go, I've got it, and I can take you out there. While you're trying to get to that point, my suggestion is that you always refer to having a team, because your office has always got a broker, a manager. Those are your team leaders who will help you through something. So if somebody feels like you're too new in the business, they need to know that you have help behind you. So that's my take on beginning your career.
Yeah, and I also feel like right now you need to be paying attention to what is in the news media. And not only that, but it's a great opportunity to be in the MLS and research your neighborhoods, because pretend like you are on a listing appointment, right? So whether it's the California market, we're seeing it in our area, which is LA County. I know some of the realtors here in Colorado that I've talked to. You have some properties that are still getting multiple offers. Then you have other properties that are sitting on the market for 80 days. You have to understand what that variance is and why is that happening. Why is one particular area getting 10 and 20 offers still, and then another area, it's sitting on the market for 80 days? Was that pricing? Is that the area? What is it that is doing that, right? So you have to start to learn consumer behavior. This is about the consumer. We are here to help the consumer. We are here to educate the consumer. And you have to figure out how to do that any way that you can. When you're sitting on the soccer field, when you're sitting at the baseball game.
And that's because obviously the elephant in the room is the interest rate, right? So, and there are so many people confused about this. And, why would I buy now? The logic behind it isn't there, right? But if you look at it from the standpoint of low inventory, and then this is going to turn around, that's what we're all hoping for. Now you have a different crisis on your hands again, right? Where you're paying way over the list price. And so that is where I think everyone's like, okay, what does it mean to hone my skills? That's what we're talking about.
Right.
When this turns, where are you in your career? Are you ready for that? Are you ready right now? Like you're saying, on the soccer field, it is a hot topic right now. Wherever you go, that consumer is confused.
Right.
And as a real estate agent and a professional in the industry, that's what you need to be able to do, is explain.
And, while we say everyone should be on social media, okay, if you don't want to be on social media, and if you don't want to be on camera, and if you don't want to be relaying that, then sit down with a lender and go through the numbers, so that when you are having those conversations, you're able to speak eloquently on, hey, listen, yeah, right now we're at an 8% interest rate, but houses aren't selling hundreds of thousands above. When the interest rates come back down, we have a shortage of inventory. There's a potential that you're back to paying 50, 75, 100,000 over. So what does that look like? Have a lender break it down. At this price, at an 8% interest rate, what's the payment look like? At this price, and increase it by 75 or 100,000 at a 5% interest rate, what does that price look like? Because guess what? If you've got liquid money that you're not having to put into overbidding a house when the interest rates do kind of come back down, should they come back down, I guess we should say, then you're better off having the money liquid in the bank account than having to put it towards paying more for a home because you're once again in multiple offer situations. And if you're newer, find out how you can be a top negotiator, because that's really what it's a matter of.
That's a huge skill.
You have a lot of consumers that they want to blame their realtor for losing out. Listen, there's one house for 10 people. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the person who had the best negotiating skills and or was able to put forth the money, right? We had this lovely couple that they could only go so high. So we did the best we could at the highest that they could go, but someone outbid them. You can't change that perspective. You can't change that. But if everyone's kind of in the same price range, well, then it goes back to the art of negotiation, and it goes back to educating your client on this is what needs to be done. If the consumer doesn't listen to you, then they can't blame you. I almost want to do a video going, don't blame your realtor, because sometimes it's not their fault. It's unfortunately the market that we're in, but there is a home for everyone. At the end of the day, our clients ended up with the home they wanted in the first place. At the end of the day, it all works out, and you end up finding the home of your dreams and finding a home that you want. But I think really sitting down with someone who's seasoned or your broker and find out what art of negotiation actually means.
That's what Mama Di had said of, going to your leaders and with that, so Mama Di, we call her Mama Di, by the way, because the 3 grandkids call her Mama. So that's her name now. But you've been in so many different markets in the 30 years you've been in this industry. And so what's your take on today's market?
Well, the difference between the market that we're in now that feels like we're back to 2006, 2007, which was a recession, there isn't a recession. The interest rate came back up because they had lowered it so low for the COVID and all the time off work, et cetera, which helped everybody, which was fine. But now they're back up to normal interest rates that we were all used to paying. And in the meantime, home prices escalated. The thing of today, when you look in the MLS, those houses are not coming down in price. We thought we would have a lowering of price that would go along with the interest rate. And so consequently, if you buy at today's price, you're probably going to be doing the right thing, because the prices continue to increase and you can't go back and get a new price, but you can do a refinance. And that's what you have to take a look at. I understand, first of all, though, that you have to be able to afford that payment now, because we don't know if it will take us 6 months for the rate to go down or a year to go down. So you need to be comfortable with your payment and have some money behind you to carry you until you can do that refinance. But you can't just say, oh, this is not the time to buy, because it really probably is, because prices continue to go up. People are still overbidding on many homes in our area. And that's just the reality of the whole thing.
Well, and I feel like there are a lot of conversations out there where everyone is looking at the inflation, and everyone is looking at the inflation of housing prices. And then, of course, we all, eggs, milk, groceries have gone up. What the typical consumer is not realizing from a real estate standpoint is that the inflation of groceries, gas, all of that is not hurting anyone, because they all refinanced when interest rates were 2%. So they've now reduced their payments by $500-$600, and
they feel the hurt that.
Yeah, they feel the hurt, but
right.
not so much,
Correct.
because they were all able to refinance and they've saved so much money. They're now not making that higher mortgage. So they've got a little bit they've got a little bit more money in their pocket because of what they've saved on their mortgage. So it's sort of all relative, right? So you don't have that people overpaid for houses and now they have these astronomical payments. They don't, because the interest rates were so low that, the payments aren't that bad, and it's something that they can afford. And that's another thing too to look at. So we had the downed market and the short sales and the foreclosures, because people were getting loans that were outside their means. The lenders don't work that way anymore. They're not just handing anyone a loan. So whoever has bought these properties, they qualify for the mortgage. They can make the mortgage.
That's where people are saying, they're kind of forgetting those times, like Mom and Dad brought up 2006 to, when did it, like 2009, wasn't it? It felt like forever.
Yeah.
But so I get that. So then given that, I kind of lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you guys. That was very well said, though, the way the book. Oh, I know. I was going to say. So like right now, it is slow, and so we know that mom's database is obviously yours. Consists of mom several age groups because it started with the parents, and then now they're grandparents, and so now they're married. So how are you getting any of that from you and Erica share that database? Are you getting any of these kinds of questions like, my grandson's getting married, Diane, what would you suggest? And how are you guiding your clients right now through all of this?
Absolutely. That's the main thing that people contact us whenever we've done our database. We've always made sure that they understood we wanted to be their realtor for life. And so far that has proven true because we do have the kids, then the grandkids, and I'm very proud of that. What I make sure of in my career, and you girls have done the same thing, is that we don't push somebody into a home, because all you're doing at that point is looking at your commission check. And they'd rather give you 10 of those commission checks than for you to get them into something that isn't going to be sustainable. So I do find when I sit down and discuss it with them, discuss their dollars, discuss what their goals are, what they need, in the monies. Are they only making that kind of money right now because it's overtime? You have to really know their backgrounds on everything so you can help them. They're excited, like seeing the shiny car on the showroom floor. Then when that bill comes in the following month, it's not as exciting. And you've done harm and not good, and you don't get a client for life. So everything that you do to protect them, and it's hard to come up with every scenario because every day seems a little bit different right now on what's going on. Inventory is the hardest part. If our inventory will just start to perk a little bit with people getting job changes, outgrowing their homes and that kind of thing, then you'll see a difference right away. And that's what we're hoping for in 2024, not at the beginning, but probably in the middle. And so that is what you have to do. You have to sit down with them and guide them as though they were your family member. Would you put them into that home and push them? And Erica was talking about negotiations, that the realtors have to do the negotiations. And another thing that I think that all realtors should be aware of, negotiating does not mean taking away your client's rights off the contract. You don't go in and say, we'll buy the house and let's tell them that you'll have no loan contingency, no inspection contingency, no this contingency. Those contingencies are put on there for a reason. You're buying a home to live in. They are buying a home to live in for many years to come, hopefully, and enjoy. And you can't take away all those rights and they move in and there's some hidden secret that maybe the seller didn't even know. So you have to be able to get professionals in there to take care of all of that. So that's the reason of learning your contract and understanding that you don't just give away the farm so that you can say you made that sale. Negotiating is doing everything that you can. Like sometimes somebody will not ask a seller to pay for a home protection plan. The buyer will buy it themselves, that kind of thing. Little things that show that you're willing to do, but not take away the inspection rights or give up that loan contingency till you're sure your lender tells you it's a safe one to do.
Yeah, and making sure, during that time, there were a lot of buyers that were removing the inspection contingency. And, I had a client, she was single, and she wasn't willing to give up that right. So it took us a few tries to get a house. But, all of us that come from a risk management background like we do, I often in the back of my head thought, well, how many lawsuits are going to come down the road because agents would say, don't have a loan contingency because you can get a loan. Don't have an inspection contingency. And so, I have a feeling like that's going to be to our detriment here down the road soon, because then, people are going to go, well, now I need a $10,000 roof and you told me not to get a home inspection. So yeah, you have to
Those are
really,
the things that can come back and backfire on an agent.
yeah, 100%. And we kind of joke. So joking about Mom's database, we decided to have a little event for our clients. And so we called it Clients and Cookies, and we invited them to come to Crumble Cookies.
Oh, what a great idea.
Yeah,
so that's something that agents could be doing. We're going to dive more into this, by the way, but for our listeners. But
yeah,
go right ahead. That's a great story.
100%. So it was Clients and Cookies, and we invited them to come between 12 and 2, and I had worked with the manager, and we came up with a system. And we asked our clients to come between those hours, come visit with us, and we were going to buy them cookies, as many cookies as they wanted. So one of her clients showed up and was talking to her. So we went back, and I looked it up, and I'm like, Mom, she's been in her house 33 years. People are supposed to move every 5 to 7. I said, you've sold all of your clients their forever home. Like, we're so lucky that they send kids and grandkids. However, she did end up calling Mom a couple weeks later, because then the son was looking into buying an investment property, and he thought about buying an investment property. And it's a conversation that she's still having with that client. So while this lady has been in her house 35 years, which isn't the norm, but that goes to show you, right? You have to have good listening skills, and you need to listen to your clients, because we have done that to where we've ended up with clients that don't move and they stay in their home, and that's having the listening skills. I had a client recently that, I'm going to be retired in 5 years, and this is what my income's going to look like. I have to be in something that I can afford when I retire and on a limited income. So it's listening to that and working with the lender and having them break down payments. And, I think who you surround yourself with is a huge part of your success as well, because I've had lenders that a buyer maybe came to me already with, and they're like, you do your job, I'll do mine. And then I go to the buyer and they're like, oh, we'll go elsewhere. We're not working with them. Because I have to be able to have a lender break down numbers. I want to make sure before I show them a house and get them excited about that house that they can afford the payment on that house. And we also did it with the increase during COVID and the increase. And I would go to the lender and say, okay, they're going to have to offer this much over. So now what does the payment look like? And making sure that they're comfortable with that, because that's the very first check you write every single month. And who are you going to think of when you're writing a check that you can't write? Us.
Well, I know one of my bosses when I was in lending, Mike Mina of Augusta Financial, he had just put a post on Facebook of a client that came to him, and he broke it all down. And what I love about what Mike does too is that he does feel like all of the realtors that come to him are his part of his team, because he's trying to say the same thing. He was the one who said it, that this market is not your fault. This is what it's looking like. And I think for agents that are saying to themselves right now, what do I do? Just what am I going to do? And you two have brought up some great points. First of all, having client appreciations, staying in front of your client, whether that be, I know, Erica, you're going to put on your website some marketing for your social media avenues, and break that down. Choose only a couple that you're going to do and stick with it. And Mom, I know that you do mailers so that you stay in touch, because unfortunately, you're not on the soccer field anymore. Your grandkids are all grown. But like Erica, you had started to bring that up. And I think that that's maybe something that we discuss next. So we've got all that drilled down of, okay, be knowledgeable about the market so you can speak intelligently to your client. They will circle back to you. And so we've kind of covered that. And that's very true, because they're going to remember what you said, because you're giving them some valuable information, but go get yourself educated on that information. Then what would be the next thing? Right now, what are you two doing to keep your faces in front of your database?
We're staying in front of them. Social media is always good. And I've always believed in kind of thinking outside the box with stuff. Mom just sent out you sent out something on putting your property in a trust and explaining what it means.
Idea. Yeah, explain that, Di.
Yes, I had the flyer. The flyer actually came from the title company, so it was very accurate. in its discussion, which was a really good thing. And it was ready to go to just get printed off and add to my letter. And in my letter, I just did my usual catching up with them and asking questions so that maybe they reach back out and give you an answer. And then I did get some feedback on that they were grateful for that. Some people have not taken care of putting their properties into a trust. And I put in there in my letter that this means probate, if not. And that's horrific for the family. They're going through grieving, and then they got to worry about going to an attorney and going to court and making sure there's no other family members and all of the things that you don't want to get involved in. So people were very grateful for that flyer. And I intend to do a little bit more of that coming up, because there's some things coming out that are explaining things, and they explain them professionally from title people or lenders and people who work that business every single day. And, we've done it once a month. And then I'm very happy to announce that I started my Christmas cards. I make handmade Christmas cards for the entire database plus the family. And I enjoy that. Plus, people have come to expect them because I get a lot of comments back and they seem to enjoy them. So, but you have to start early because you have a lot to make. But it keeps you in touch on a basis that makes them feel like you are part of their family. They wouldn't turn to somebody else. Unless they obviously have a family member who gets in the business.
Right, that's the goal.
So I think things like that, stay in touch.
Yeah, and your Christmas cards, people literally will put a picture of the Christmas card and then tag us and go, whose realtor makes handmade Christmas cards, right? So that's always really good business. I used to send out before the holidays. What I did was, our local moving company, they provided storage as well as moving. So I had reached out to them and asked them if they would give a discount. I reached out to a photographer. So it was like, these are my elves, or, your little helpers. And I, made it all colorful and fun. And I just added those things. Do you need a room painted before your family comes in for Thanksgiving? Here's a great painter. Do you need things fixed up? Here's a great handyman. Do you need portraits for your Christmas cards or your holiday cards? Here's a great photographer. And I just listed a whole resource of people that over the years I've come to know, or they've, my clients have hired them to do stuff. I know that they're good and quality. And, I just made that little list. I posted it on social media. I mailed it out to our database. So, it doesn't always have to be real estate centric. If you don't have something to put out there that's real estate centric, make sure that they just know that you're a go-to person. I have so many people that reach out to me going, do you know a good handyman? Do you know a good painter? And, I keep these resources right at my fingertips so that I can go, yes, I do. And I even see on Facebook where people will ask, and then I let them know, hey, I'm a realtor. This is someone I've used for many years. My clients have used them. They've been happy with them. And then I hand out the phone number. And this is just in like a little SCV and search of group. So these people don't know me, but I'm allowed, it allows me to establish myself. Hey, I'm the local realtor. And I know these people that anyone can reach out to their local realtor, and they probably have a huge list of resources, or they're able to find someone because at the end of the day, even when the deal is closed, our clients come back to us. Well, now I need my house painted. Now I need this done. And I have a client that even with the insurance, all of the insurance issues that are going on, he's not wanting to move, but he called me to ask my opinion on all of it, going, what do you think? What does this mean? So I explained it to him, and, it's funny. I love it. Every time he calls me, I know it's not to sell his house, but he wants to discuss something real estate related. So he wants my expert opinion on it, which I think is great. I also want to so we did talk about resources. We are going to have a ton of resources, most of them free for our listeners. If you're on YouTube, down below, I will be sure in the description, even for the podcast description, I'll be sure to put, it's the connectwitherica.com.
So you'll put the link there.
Yeah, www.connectwitherica.com, and you'll see where it says free downloads. And right now I have a social media calendar on there, and the social media calendar even has some already made templates for you. And then I have a cute Halloween. It's their little chip bags. I'm finishing up doing my videos on how to put them together and how you can utilize them in your business. But, that's another thing too, putting those together. It's branded to you. You can hand them out at trunk and treats. You can hand them out to trick-or-treaters. It's little things like that. Our community has a lot of events where we've set up a table and we've handed out things like that. You can give them out at open houses. So, I think sometimes it's being creative, which not everyone is creative. But.
And I was going to say that, but however, it's you two are showing of thinking outside the box. So whatever fits your business, right? But one thing that comes to mind too that I hear quite frequently, we just had a visit with a realtor, and he was saying how he doesn't know how to put his CRM together. And so, we are going to bring this up. I remember when I first went to work for Mom, and our older sister, Kathy, and I looked at her and said, "Why do you carry that book with that manila folder and Post-it notes, Mom? What are the Post-it notes? Those are my goals. Those are my clients." And then she'd open that manila folder, and her CRM, I'm not making fun, Mom. It was actually very adorable. And she had these papers. And she would say to us, "These are our goals." And I'm like, "Well, all righty. Okay." Well, the computers and CRMs weren't where they're at today. This was in the 1900s. But, let's fast forward to today. Right now, even realtors that are, getting started and so forth, the shiny objects are not affordable to some agents. And so the one thing that you would always say to us was that be careful with that. You do what works for you. Because you can get caught up in all of that and you do nothing then. Same with social media, because you are so it's such a scary thing to do, then you do nothing. And the next thing you know, months and days go by and you've done nothing with your business. And we all know you are the CEO, the COO, you are the marketer, you are the CFO, you're all of it, right? So you can't afford to do that. So let's hit on that a little bit, especially right now where you're saying we're going to give some giveaways and so forth of where you can scale your business back to be affordable and yet do what you need to do.
Yeah, well, what's funny is we do have a CRM, but Mom's is still her Microsoft Word labels. And that's all she uses.
Okay.
And then she types them in as she adds a new one.
I would like to defend myself, you silly girls. First of all, ladies and gentlemen,
yes,
I started in 1989 and there weren't computers yet.
Oh, that's true.
I ran an insurance business that was manually done on typewriters, and we knew the computers were coming, and I thought I better get into some other business and do it soon. And so that's why I went to real estate. Not sure why, just picked it. So we didn't have anything like that. And actually Top Producer was the first one that came out.
That's right.
And you needed a 6-year college education and then a helper to be able to navigate it. I think I was probably one of the first people that bought it and one of the first people that put it into the drawer and said, "This will be fine." As the years went on, I had so much database going on. And when I'd get ready to mail, the easiest thing was to have them already in the computer on the Avery Label site. And there was their names and addresses. I had other places with notes and things like that, but those were ready to go. So when I want to do a mailer, I can decide it this morning, print it off, and send it by tonight. And that's just how I keep on working. And of course, not the young people. They're going to go into, we've got a lot of new, fresh ones. And I know there's one going around now for most of the brokerages, the KB Core. And it seems to be something that you can just transfer everything, keep in touch. It's beautiful for all of the nice young folks out there that have all the technological skills. So you two just keep on laughing as we do.
I just think it's adorable.
It was. And you know what was really good
working
is when the sticky part of the Post-it note gave way, she'd use a piece of Scotch tape. So she had rolls of Scotch tape everywhere. But you know what I will say about those days is that client, and I did it Mom and I had the Fannie Mae account back in the early 90s. And so that's how I got into real estate. I was paying the bills on all the properties. You had 20 to 25 at a time, it seemed like? The whole family was involved.
Yes, because then it followed by the earthquake, and then we were getting anywhere from 30 to 45 in a month. Ugh. And it was sad, actually, but
yeah, it was
someone had to do the work.
Right.
And there was a lot to be done for those.
Mm-hmm. And that was, let's take those. They weren't the fun times, obviously, but
Sorry.
And we still, I think we learned our skills, our people skills from that, because it wasn't always. It was there was some sad situations of going to the front door and all of that, but. I remember that you did build your database from that, and so it's like, no matter what it is that gets you that client's name and number, that's what you whether you're buying leads right now or whether it was like this situation that we were in the 90s, but we still took every person that we were face to face with, and I remember you saying, you put them in. Plug them in. We need that person. And then you would have those goals on the Post-it notes as well, because you always said, have them out in front of you. Set your goals. And you would carry that client on the front of that manila folder till we close that client. Or, you'd say, one of you girls needs to call this person. I have them on my folder because they need to be contacted. And that's what you taught us. And talk about that a little bit. You're still like that.
I'm still like that for sure. And I do have anybody who'd like to drop by and see how it worked. I think I have every day planner from 1989 forward, because sometimes I go to look for a number or something in there, or finding out about their kids or their grandkids. So, I'm happy to say that I have good health. And so at this age, I'm able to still do business. And one of the reasons that I can is because I did it simplified, and the other doesn't scare me. I use what I can of it because some of it's great, but I can't do it all. And it's just, what it is. And there are a lot of people that start real estate after retiring from another profession.
Yes, they do.
So any of those folks that are listening in, this is something you can still do without having to know every single technological step. And your brokerages will help you with what's good. Most of them have trainers in-house to help you now. And Erica and Tammy are going to be putting out a lot of information that gives it to you firsthand. So you go to their website and you'll be able to start a lot faster than waiting for the company to put you through stuff.
Well, and also, that's the thing, is that our database is everything to us. And our database guarantees us, where people would laugh because I would look at brokers that would try to hire us or something, and I'd say, listen, we just wake up every day and do this much business. And that's the honest to God's truth. Zero money in marketing, just a matter of staying in front of our database. And that is so important. So even for someone who is newer, I feel like that's the very first thing. Even if it's someone that you're waiting to take your test, the very first thing you should do is start making a list of everyone you know, get their addresses, get their phone numbers, find out their birthdays, find out their wedding anniversaries. As much information as you can find out about your client, the better. And that was a few things, because again, just like Mom said, you didn't have a CRM. So we literally had our Microsoft Word labels, and we had typed everyone into that, because even as techie as I am, top producer, you're right. It was so hard to navigate. But, it's finding out, do they like beer over wine, all these different things. And that's where the listening skills, and you take those notes and you keep those notes wherever you need to keep them that works for you, so that when it's your client's birthday, maybe send them, a gift card to a brewery, just buy them a $5 beer. If they are so in love with their dog, put together a treat basket for the dog. It's, so much of it is relationships. It's all about creating relationships. And so we created relationships with our clients, where some of them have been invited to graduation parties, or they've invited us to baby showers and wedding showers and weddings, where they treat us like family, but that's because we formed relationships with them. And then we're first and top of mind when it comes to it, And I feel like we should throw out with Mom in the insurance business. I mean, you took a business that had 2 employees and you grew it to 180 employees. So I feel like that entrepreneurial spirit and that business spirit is what has also helped make us so successful in this industry, is that, you didn't really have a business background. You were a stay-at-home mom, and Dad, you traveled a lot because of Dad with the construction, but it kind of threw you into becoming a businesswoman, and you grew this business to something that was huge and great for our family. So I think it was easy to carry that over into the real estate arena.
It was because it was a service business. And so you're still doing a service business when you're doing the real estate. And as you were talking about the database for any of the new people, because sometimes you don't really understand how that works so well, the main thing you're after by staying in touch with these people who stay in their house for 30 years is they will send you referrals because they trust you. They know you care about them, and you're going to care about their family. You're going to care about their friends. You're going to care about their kids. And people are not going to be sent off into the bad woods where people don't care. They care only about picking up a check. And that's just the truth of the business. You have to care, because then you'll get that caring back tenfold. And like Erica said, we've never bought leads. A lot of people have made a lot of money in buying the leads, but we just didn't run our business that way. And I think that we've done really well, and we feel good about it, because we're always so excited when somebody wants to see homes and get out there and start their portfolio for life. And it's a great career. I love it still.
And so with that, and I think we've all seen it, and it's easy to do. Every day you could be out of business, right? Because that is how the real estate industry is set up. But a lot of times it's not looked at as a serious business. And this is a very serious career that you do have, right? I mean, even like we were talking about, all these dollars that are going out, and like you're saying, making sure you sit down with your client and going over their budget and their goals and really listening. But why don't we speak to that a little bit about the business side? This is a business, and a lot of the times they get into real estate not realizing the business. I think Mom was born with a business brain. I mean, how old were you when you were going into the bank for Grandpa? I mean, that's the Sicilian in you.
Yeah. Or at the racetrack. That's how she learned numbers so well, at the racetrack. Calculating odds.
I don't think I've ever met a more savvy businesswoman than our mother, and thank God she's our mother. But maybe speak to that a little bit. It is a business, and I think that's what panics agents, right? And because maybe they're not looking at it that way, but you really bought a business. It's your business.
Correct. It's totally business, and you have to run it properly. You can't just take that check and go Yahoo and out the door you go. You owe the government their percentage. You're an independent contractor, and nothing gets taken out. There's no 401ks. You have to set yourself up for everything that you would get on a job. So when it looks like agents are getting a large paycheck, those don't come in every 15 minutes. You don't get a 40-hour week and say, here's 4 paychecks. Mm-hmm. So you have to prepare yourself and work with your CPA, get all set up so you know exactly what you have to put back. And you put that away out of every check when you get the check. So the rest of the money is left for you to take care of your life and move forward. And you don't want surprises at the end. So obviously you need a little bit of money to get started, because it's very difficult to get that first sale. Once the first sale is under your belt, then you're off and running, because 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 4, etc. You start working that neighborhood. You start working the people that are friends of those people. And there's many different avenues that we will get into, I'm sure, on later podcasts. But it is definitely a full business. So people who get into it over the years, this is what I've seen. The ones who get into it and go, oh, I'm just going to do a little bit of that. It doesn't work unless what you're saying is a little bit will be fine with me, but you still have to hone your craft every single day. If you don't stay on top of it, you're just going to be sitting in the conference room waiting for the meetings and some cookies to come in. If that's what you want, just to build friendships, that's fine with me, fine with you. But to run a business, you do have to get everything business lined out when you start in the beginning.
And you have to be consistent. You know, when I ran agent development for one of our local companies, and with that, there were a lot of new agents that came through the door, and you know, I would get them all set up with a farming area. I would even get them set up with 8 months of postcards. They would mail it once and go, I didn't get not one phone call. Well, you're not going to. You're not going to get a phone call. You know, when you look at statistics of how many impressions it takes for someone to remember something, and it's 8 impressions, which is why I made up 8 postcards. And I would tell them, I don't care if you send the same postcard all 8 months in a row. I don't care if you send 2 postcards a month. You got to send out 8 because that's what it takes for impressions. And, you know, I'll never forget I was at an event, I think it was for the Women's Council of Realtors, and there was a speaker, and she had put up on the screen Olympic athletes. There were like 4 different Olympic athletes that were on the screen at that time that everyone would have recognized. And she said, what do these people all have in common? So you're kind of looking at them, and, you know, it was like such an aha moment, because then her response back was, these people show up every single day for something that comes every 4 years. Mind blown, right? Yeah. They show up every single day to practice, work out for something that comes every 4. I mean, granted, they go to competitions in between them, but still, you know, their ultimate goal is the Olympics. And so they show up every single day to get to something that's 4 years down the road. They don't say, oh, I'm going to take today off because it's from 4 years from now, you know? So that was such an aha moment for me. And so it really is that in some way, some form, you have to show up for your business every single day because it's your business. And ultimately, it's only you that's going to succeed in the long run. There's no one else to help get you there, you know, aside from partners that you work with.
And to kind of wrap up today's episode as well, what I'm kind of hearing and feeling, and of course we know, is that putting your business together, it doesn't happen when you're busy. And that's what ends up happening. And I think that's when, you know, we've had agents, even when I was at Remax and I was a franchise development consultant. So I worked with the agents a lot, and I would I'd hear them say, you know, I need to know how to utilize these tools. Well, when you're busy, it's hard to get to know the tools of whether your company provides it or whether you've paid for that shiny object. So right now in this market where we have the issues we have is the time to review. We're getting close to the end of the year. Your business plan is the next thing, and make your goals for next year. But do it right now while you have the time. If you have teams and assistants in place, then utilize all of your resources right now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
And also, as you're doing that planning, I'd like to say that you're sending out things consistently. You're doing something all the time to stay in front of everybody, but do it with no expectation.
Oh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
You don't want to expect something every time you do something, because that will defeat you. Some people, way back when, there was a contest that I was going to a class, and there was a contest to see if you sent out a flyer, how far you could get with that and so forth. And it was a small condo complex, but it did really well for me. And for some reason, they took that flyer and put it on their refrigerator. And I got calls for the next 3 years. And some of the places I would walk in had this on a magnet, and I just couldn't even believe it. But that was what the coach was teaching, that people will hang on to something if you do it right. And advertising has changed a bit in our business. We can't do some of the things we did way back when because they don't let you show other people's listings in certain ways and that kind of thing, and you'll learn all that. But I was very pleased with that, and I learned from that to not expect anything, because those same people could call you a year from now. They might just like what you sent and hang on to it, and then there's your phone number right there for them. So enjoy what you send out and don't expect something immediately from it. You will get something back, and be patient.
Yeah, and that flyer was like free faxing, free copies. It was like this little VIP card that we put together, you know, and the guy called Mom. We were at a whole different brokerage when we put that together. We did the coaching together. We were at a whole different brokerage. They called us when we were at my brokerage, and he said, this is what I need. And she went to take the papers back to him, and he had 2 condos to list. So, wow. You know, I mean, he had hung on to that flyer literally for probably 5 years. He had hung on to that piece of paper in case he needed something for free. Right. Yeah. So again, and that was thinking outside the box, right? That wasn't a real estate centric. That was just be a part of our VIP program. We had this really great copier. So we were offering free color copies, free black and white, because,
scanning,
you didn't have the technology you have now. You didn't have the little at-home all-in-one printers. You didn't have that. So it's thinking about things like that. But those are all stories of things that work over time.
And today, when I would hear from the agents when I would go to the brokerages at RE/MAX that the social media overwhelmed them. And I would always say, because there's different age brackets in real estate. Like Mom said, some are reinventing themselves. This is their second career. Some are young and getting into it. And then you have your in-betweens. But the biggest thing I would say to them is, because you get overwhelmed, you do nothing then. So choose one of the avenues of social media. You don't have to do all of them. TikTok may not be your thing. It's okay. Right. I don't do video. Now, my niece makes me do videos with her and hold her ferret and all of that. But,
me too.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, so if you have somebody that's that age on your team that can help you with the TikTok, then do it. Have fun with it, But clients nowadays do like to see that fun side. They don't want to, they want to know you know business, but they also want to know what are you doing in the community and so forth. And so choose one of the social media avenues. Choose something that is giving back to your community.
Yeah, you have to also know who your audience is, because if Mom was on TikTok doing the Pamela Pumpkin dance, people would think she looks ridiculous, right? I'm Pamela Pumpkin, right? Right? The richest broom. That just, number one, she's not, that's really not her demographic of clients. It'd be hysterical.
It would be good.
That's not her audience.
Right.
So her audience, you have to mail to, because it's something that has been established for that long. My audience are people that are on social media. And so, yes, I do the fun dances with Kaylee. I do the cute things, bragging on what a great kid she is. And so, you have to know who your audience is. All of my people, they're on social media, but a lot more are on Facebook than they are TikTok. So I focus a lot more on Instagram and Facebook than I maybe do on TikTok. Hopefully a lot of people will find us in our podcast on TikTok. But, so yes, you have to kind of know what your niche is, and we'll talk a lot more about that too. I know we're wrapping this up. We are going to go into a part 2, so
yes, we don't want to keep our listeners from...
That'll be released. Yeah, I don't want to bore everyone. Sometimes it's too much to have sink in, but we'll talk about that more too, of finding a niche, and also who's your audience. So how do you get in front of that audience?
And don't forget to leave your comments on YouTube of what you'd like us to maybe unlock that we haven't already kind of mentioned, where we're going with all of this. And
there's a form, connectwitherica.com, even on our podcast link, as well as just right there on the front page, you can fill out a form. We're not collecting people's email addresses, but fill out the form and let us know where you're struggling, and we'll have an episode on it, because chances are that you're not the only one that's struggling with that.
Correct.
At the time.
Yeah. Yes.
So thank you, everyone, so much. It was fun. Thanks, you, Mama Diane.
You're welcome, and I was happy to be here, and I wish good luck to all of you out there, and stick with it, because like I said, it's a great career for many years to come.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Real Estate Unlocked. We hope you've gained valuable insights to unlock your potential in this dynamic industry. Remember, your support means the world to us. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. As we wrap up this episode, always remember that every door in real estate is an opportunity waiting to be unlocked. Keep pushing forward, and your success will follow. Don't forget to ask questions, find resources, and explore connectwitherica.com. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes, stories, and expert advice on Real Estate Unlocked.